Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on Polywine, where we like to take a deep dive into stories pulled from the media and have a fun time while breaking it down. I'm Jillian, and let's get into it. Let's work our way over to Vatican City, where the lines are long for visitors to pay the respect for Pope Francis. His body will be lying in waiting until his service on Saturday. And then the process of the conclave and the voting for the new pope will take place. According to some of the news that I've seen coming out over in Italy, they've actually extended the hours because the lines have been so long. So everybody has that opportunity to pay the respect for the pope. He gave his life to the underserved, underprivileged and the misfortunate. He lived a life of basic means. When he took the position of Pope, he didn't want all the grandeur and he didn't want to live in the palace, all the glamour and all the robes and the hats. No, he went with something very simple and very modest. He went with the small cap and the white robe. He had a very small, modest apartment there in Vatican City. And I think that it's not something I've not seen in my entire life. And he seemed to be a man of just, of a wonderful spirit, of a beautiful character, and just a beautiful being. And what a way to go out. You know, the Holy Day Easter, he comes out after being in the hospital for, what was it, over a month? And to come out of that, and he did not look well, but he came out for the people of love, for just one last time, waved, blessed a baby, gave himself. Oh, speaking of Easter, let's work our way over to the White House. Now, this Easter, Pope Francis, we lost him on Monday. And then in the White House on Monday, we had the Easter egg roll. First time ever, there were corporate sponsors. And I'm just kind of curious how that went. You heard a lot of information coming up in the news leading up to the White House. They have these corporate sponsors. I kind of want to see the spreadsheets and the numbers following that. Who were the sponsors and what were the numbers? And where did the money go? That's my question. It's the first time ever it happened. And I'm going to go back to the documentary on HBO Max, and it's called The Dark Money Game. I'm telling you, I just saw the second episode, and pardon me, I don't remember the name of the episode, but it was kind of talking companies, money, and the slow movement into the courts and politics. And I'm going to talk about like Citizens United, and just the large super PACs, and where is all this huge amounts of money going, and how the word gratuities is just flown around. I'm telling you, it was such a good watch. It was infuriating. My blood was boiling and I was definitely yelling back at the TV watching this. Oh my God. I cannot tell you how, if you like politics, how good this series is. I've talked about it before. It really breaks down the underbelly of the beast and like corporate financing, the major money, how it's working its way into the Supreme Court and how it works its way into Congress and Senate and the bribing. And it's just so interesting. I cannot tell you how much I love and kind of hate it. And I mean hate in a good way, because it's the documentary, or docu-series, I should say, is fantastic. It is a great series. But it's also an infuriating series because this is why I kind of hate it, because they break it down so well. Sometimes you don't really want to know how corrupt and just how dirty the system really can be. And it's eye-opening, sure, no question about it, but it is infuriating. And look, if you know the system well, you know the loopholes, and you know the gratuities and how to get around it, that's why people get paid the big bucks in politics. And Pete Hegseth is in the news again. The defense secretary. Another scandal over Signalgate, if you will, is using again, this time had other people attached that should not be privy to sensitive military information or sensitive government information at all. Look, this is not the last time we're going to hear stories of just the idiocy coming from this man. Pete Hegseth reminds me of a guy that you meet, and when you start talking to him, you're like, this guy's an idiot. And you just exit the conversation. Yeah, that's it. That is who is in charge of this department. That is my opinion. I think the man is a moron, and he should not be in charge of such a high-powered position. He should not be in charge of anything. Kristi Noem, God, another one. She's DHS, and she just had her purse stolen. Now, these things happen. I've had my purse stolen in Washington, D.C. It happens, not uncommon. But let me just tell you what's in her purse. First of all, I mean, that thing would be like attached to me. I'm not a fan of a fanny pack, but I would probably have a fanny pack. I want something, or like those, those passport like sashes that they have when they travel that you can put like under your shirt. She should be wearing that. She had, what was stolen was her DHS access badge. She had like $3,000 in cash. Who carries $3,000 in cash? Why? She had keys and some other just random things taken. But and there was a video from the restaurant that said that they did see a male with a mask actually take the purse. But is this just a thief with really bad luck? Or was there intent behind it? That is the bigger question, right? So I hope they catch whoever it was. Were they trying to get something of any importance in her bag? It's not a very reassuring thing to hear that the head of DHS was also a victim of theft. Just saying. Not the best look. Let's just hope no canines are involved in this investigation. So let's just say that. Now, let's move over into the world of court. Remember Lori Daybell, the Doomsday Mom, who was found guilty of murdering her children and just had this bizarre speech in court, how she knew in heaven that her daughter was sending her signals that I'm okay. It was really disturbing. Well, she was in court in Arizona because she was standing trial for being part of the conspiracy to murder her fourth husband, Charles Vallow. Well, she represented herself. She was her own legal team, and she was found guilty. She was found guilty in conspiring with her brother to murder her fourth husband, Charles Vallow. I mean, I just recently watched a documentary on her, and this woman, it is shocking that any mother could do that to her children. This woman is demented, in my opinion, and she should be behind bars. She's been found guilty in Idaho. She's been found guilty in Arizona. I don't know exactly where she'll end up, but she is where she belongs. And I gotta say that her trials were just crazy. Crazy. And speaking of crazy court cases, yes, it's back on. The Karen Read retrial is back on. Now, there have been a lot of documentaries about this, and we talked about one several weeks ago on HBO Max. I found that to be a very good documentary, and they were kind of preparing for this retrial that just started. Now, in Boston, let's take a quick check back. Karen Read was accused essentially of leaving her boyfriend, who was a Boston cop, out in the snow to die after a fight. That was what she was accused of. She declared her innocence. She pled not guilty, and the whole trial took place. in this past summer in 2024. Well, the jury could not come to a conclusion on all counts, so it was a mistrial. Now, what made it so kind of fascinating is that the jury went to the judge, like, we cannot come to a decision. We cannot come to a unanimous decision. And the judge said, go back and try. So they did the following day. I believe it was the following day, because it's been a while ago. The head juror came back and to the judge and said, we still cannot come to a unanimous decision. So I don't think we can do this. One more time, the judge said, go back and try again. The third time, the head juror came out and said, we cannot come to a unanimous or decision. It's just not going to happen. So the judge declared it a mistrial. Well, the trial is back on, and it's good. It's fiery. There's been some heated moments with some of the attorneys and the judge. There was a very intense testimony yesterday. It was cross-examination, and this was the defense team, the defense of Karen Read. Her legal team was cross-examining a witness. But she was one of the women that Karen Read was with when the body of her boyfriend was discovered. And I want to say I believe her name was Roberts, but this is cross-examination yesterday. And a little slow at first, but the attorney was trying to make clear timelines and just paint a very, very clear picture of what happened on the moment. Did you hear Karen Read say that when anybody was asking, did you hear him Google hypothermia? Because she said in the other court trials that this one witness heard Karen Read say that she had heard to Google hypothermia in snow or something to that effect. And the attorney was just drilling the woman on the witness stand. Did you hear it? Did you actually hear it? Did you lie in previous testimony about overhearing Karen say, or the defendant, Google hypothermia? Because this was a very heavy statement in the previous trial, because that statement can have implications. And her attorney was really trying to get this witness to say, or just come clean or be honest, let's say that, did you actually hear it? Because in a lot of the audio from dash cams and cell phone calls, 911, we are not hearing this, but this is your testimony. So did you actually hear it, or did you lie? And it was a heated exchange. The woman on the stand was like, I misunderstood in many of the questions. I don't recall that expression. I don't recall. This exchange between the attorney and the witness, for somebody just watching, it was thrilling. I was just so drawn in because I want to know. And all they have to do, and this is the defense, all they have to do is just present doubt. It's really on the prosecutions. It's on them. They have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, where the defense just has to prove some doubt. And yesterday, it was intense. And I'm glad that there are cameras in there. I want to see it. I think law students will be studying this case because it's a head scratcher. It is. And I'm learning a lot from it. It is an interesting case. I can totally see how this trial really has the city of Boston very conflicted. I get it. I get it. In my opinion, I think she may get acquitted. This is just my opinion. This is my opinion, and this is only what I have read about from the first case. This is just my opinion from what I've seen from the documentary, and again, that's from her side. Um, I think she could get off. I think she could. My opinion, I think it can happen. But I am completely just taken in by this trial. I just find it such as a compelling watch. There was nothing normal about this relationship. This is a tragedy. Somebody died, and this man should definitely have justice served for him. But let's just hope the right justice is served. And Gloof, if she is innocent, wow, what a story. Just wait until the documentaries and the books come out about that. But yeah, this case, you've got me hook, line, and sinker. Now, if you work your way over to Netflix, I'm telling you, it is a powerful, gripping documentary on the Oklahoma City bombing. The 30th anniversary was last week of an extreme tragedy. And I was young when that happened. And there's so many details that are just lost in time. It was so good. I was just completely in shock watching it again. I mean, you heard from the victims, you heard from journalists, you heard from doctors, witnesses. It was very well done. But I'm telling you, I was very emotional watching it. And then you also see the police hunt, how remarkably fast the investigation, boom, targeted right in on McVeigh and the other guy. And when a massive event like this happens, there's just speculation. What could happen? Could it be an accident, a gas leak, on an explosion like this? Your mind's all over the place. Could it be terrorism and things like that? How that all circled around quite quickly. But I want to just hone in on the fact that it was the journalists and news anchors that were the first one that were kind of that maybe this bombing is a link to Waco. Was this a retaliatory act from what happened at Waco? And they kept saying that. Do you think this is the anniversary of Waco? The journalists were the first one to say, I can't help but think there's some link there where, of course, the investigation wasn't even thinking about Waco. They were a little all over the place. But then it just kind of really started to line right in with the fact that, yeah, there was a link to Waco. And then they were just fast days. They had the two people that they thought were involved with the bombing. And it was remarkable. And how close they were to letting Timothy McVeigh slip through his fingers, because he was in court for a traffic violation and pulling and threatening a cop in Arizona. And kudos to that cop who pulled him over for not having a license plate. And that's how he was caught. He was pulled over for an unrelated charge of, in Arizona. They had him in court. And then when the investigation was going on the bombing, that's how they got him. He was still in court. He was in court on that day where the cops came in and were like, we want you. We think you are the guy. It is so good. I could not turn the channel. And if you like history, a very accurate and really good documentary on just a very difficult day in U.S. history, domestic terrorism. And, you got to think about that when you think about Waco. It makes you think, or excuse me, when you think about Oklahoma City bombing, you think about Waco. And then you had, before that was the Ruby Ridge. And you know, it kind of goes into a lot of that stuff. So it is a very good documentary. So Oklahoma City, A Day of Terror on Netflix. Really great watch. Go get a little piece of history. A sad day in American history. Definitely. Now let's work our way over to reality TV and let's get into some Bravo shows. And I want to start talk about Below Deck Down Under. You have been a very good watch this season. Captain Jason, not putting up with it anymore. I love it. This is distasteful. I like Captain Jason. He has a pretty relaxed attitude. Of course, he's an Australian guy. Most of them do. But he's been taking it this year. He's already snapped at Marina for giving him a little bit of a clap back. He just fired Vihan and Johnny and everybody like Johnny. Thought he was going to fire the new guy who had a shot his first night. But his reaction when the young kid came up to him, you can see how nervous he was. He was like, Captain Jason, I just want to talk to you. Last night I just, I had no resistance and I was offered a shot and I took it and I made a mistake. It was poor judgment and it's my bad. And, it's Captain Jason's reaction is like, first day? Wow. And you're just like, wow, it's so funny. Thought he was going to fire him, but he did not. He's like, you owned up. You came to me right away. I think you learned your lesson. Thank you for being responsible and, coming to me. And water under the bridge. Don't do it again. Strike one. Major strike, but you corrected this wrong. But let's just say Laura and Zarina can't fight and it's getting ugly. And I saw Marina and Brianna on Watch What Happens Live the other night with Andy Cohen. And they were asking a lot of questions about, pretty much Laura, whose side are you on, Laura or Zarina? And those two really took every opportunity to kind of slam Zarina. And maybe it's editing. I don't know. I don't want to say it was editing, but I didn't see a lot of that watching the show. I saw a lot of cattiness from Laura throughout this show. I'm seeing more of it now that there's some conflict between her and Zarina, but I am not liking Laura's attitude right now. She might be a great head stew. She might be a super efficient at her job. I'm not enjoying the drama and the internal fighting that she's kind of caught. In my opinion, this is my opinion. But I'm not seeing that side of Zarina, why they don't like her so much. Maybe there's totally different thing happening off camera, but I'm not really seeing it. Maybe it goes back to Vihan when she was kind of flirting with Vihan and he was having that thing with Marina and then Adair. I don't know. I'm not seeing it. I didn't like that though. So the fight is on. It is brewing and they are in their corners. I feel like they're getting spritzed off and they're ready to, the bell's about to ring and ding, 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 and they're going at it. So let's keep our eyes on Lauren Zarina, but Below Deck Down Under. And I always enjoy watching the beautiful aquatics. You see the fish and the other water scenes, and I love the snorkeling, and I love seeing the scene scuba diving as well with Jason and Marina, and very, very cool. Below Deck Down Under, Below Decks, all of them, you've seen one, you've seen them all, they're all on a boat, but there's something a little bit different about Down Under, and I am enjoying it. But Captain Jason, not taking it this season, and it's good. It's good. Now, I really want to get into The Valley because this past week's episode of The Valley, whoa, holy smokes. It was a difficult watch. I was on pins and needles, but this scene with Jax and Brittany fighting at the end, You can tell that they're used to the cameras being around because they were letting it all hang out until Brittany called Jax out. And let's get into that here in a second. But, it's great seeing the season coming back. I'm enjoying the couples. Jesse, you are a total dick. And Michelle, I'm not a big fan of Michelle, but you do have to feel bad for her in this situation with the divorce. I'm not saying she's perfect. I'm not saying she's innocent. I'm not saying she's not part of this problem. But as far as we see, Jesse seems like a total child and manipulative douche to deal with in this divorce. Girl, get yourself an attorney and remove yourself with any dealings with Jesse at all. Remove yourself from that stress. It's going to be stressful regardless if you have an attorney or not. But girl, do not deal with him because he is just going to keep on that wheel over and over. And she said, one minute he'll say this and then he'll retract that and want to change it. And you don't have to deal with that when the attorneys are involved. When the judge says, this is what we're going to do, he's got to follow that court order. So just deal with that. Don't try and handle a mediator. Just go get an attorney. You need it, Michelle. But I'm not a huge fan of Michelle either. I think she's dull. Janet and Jason. I am not a fan of this couple. Janet, I don't like Janet. That's just my opinion. I think Janet and Jason, I could do without them. Zach and Jasmine, I kind of love them. All right. I need a little bit more. And I like that Jasmine is going to call out Janet. She's like, you give me Karen energy. You've seen all the clips leading up to it. And she does give us Karen energy because she is a Karen, kind of. I mean, just, got no patience for Janet. Can we just get rid of her, please? Jason, you bring nothing to the table. I know that you've seen the previews. They keep talking about when Jason goes out, he takes his ring off. So I'm sure that's going to be a story at some point. But I think that's all you're going to get out of her. Brittany, she goes to lunch with her girlfriends, with Michelle and Janet. She talks about it. She stopped over to the house to grab some Amazon packages, and she found a pair of thongs and a baby wipe on her bathroom sink. Gross, because Jax had a girl over the night before. Who wants to have sex with this man? Why? We know who he is, and from what's been put out there, and I want to say, I'm not 100% sure. Was it Sandoval? Was it Sandoval who said that he never really brushes his teeth and why his breath is gross? Why would anyone do that? I want to say, I don't remember his Vanderpump Rules. So somebody said that. Maybe it was Sandoval, maybe it wasn't. But somebody said that. And that man's probably, I can't remember. I don't know the body count this man must have. Why? He is a rager. He's just, there's nothing desirable about this man. Why would you want to do that? Gross. Girls, why? Girls, why are you having sex with this man? Yuck. So that's what Brittany was talking about with the lunch and then with her girls. But I got to get to this scene at the end. It was so hard. So Brittany goes over to her house, by the way, her house. That is her and Jax's house that she could not live in because Jax, being the horrendous human that he is, kicked Brittany and the son out. And they are in an Airbnb and he's in the house because he didn't want to leave his house. But God, and Brittany, if I were you, while he is gone, I would become attorney and take that house. I don't know how you can do it. I would get as much legal advice as I can to see how can I get into this house and not have him there where I am unsafe. But Brittany, you should be that's your house with your kid. That's your kid's space. That's your kid's comfort. That is his environment. The kid should be there. And what a scene when Jax comes in the house. The kid recoiled when Jax was in. Did anybody see that? The kid crunched down when Jax came in to give him a hug, and Brittany was like, don't you give him a kiss. You were just in there with some girl. I don't know who, and who knows what germs you have. Good on you, Brittany. Good on you. Jax, oh God, you can see through this entire episode, that man is tweaking and raging. This is my opinion here, that, he is tweaking and he is pissed that he got caught and got called out. And the only reason, in my opinion, that he's checking into this rehabilitation facility is because he's going to lose his job. And Brittany says, you'll lose your job. She said that. She said, because when you go, I'm filing for divorce. I'm filing restraining order and for custody. As you should, Brittany, as you should. And I got a tip of the hat to you, Brittany, when she's like, I am not covering up for him anymore. And I'm not lying for him. Good for you. Let me tell you, men out there and anyone out there, there is a saying, hell have no fury as a woman scorned. And she has no loyalty to you anymore, Jax. You have burned the keeper of your secrets, and she is going to tell. She's protected you long enough, and she's going to tell, and she should. And Brittany, do it and do it loudly, okay? Because this scene with him raging that it's your fault, and she's like, you have an addiction. And you need to be honest with the counselors or therapist or the facility. You need to be absolutely honest. You need to let them know that you have an addiction, you have a cocaine problem. And Brittany called it out. He's like, no, I don't. Don't act like you never did it. She's like, I'm not saying I have. I'm no innocent. But I can pass a drug test today, right now. Would you? And that's the only time when, like, it's like Jack suddenly remembered that the camera's around. He's like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. And she called him out and she put him on blast in front of everybody. You know, this man has no wherewithal about how extremely toxic, how extremely explosive and volatile his personality and his character. And he absolutely needs the help. I just don't know if the facility will be able to do that. I mean, he's a little long in the tooth. And the only reason he's going anyway is because he's being forced, right? I'm sure production, and this is my thought, and I don't know, but I would think that production's like, if you do not get help, you're going to lose your job. And you can tell how pissed he is on the phone. You know, you saw that scene where Jason and was it Danny go over to basically do like a small intervention, like, you okay, man? You could see he was so pissed off. What do you mean? I've already had this conversation a million times already, and I don't want to have it anymore. And he's just pissed that they're even there. And he had already he said, I'm waiting on a phone call from the facility, and he gets the phone call where Danny and Jason are there, and he's like, I'm gonna take it, you guys can go. And they leave, and he's on the phone, and I'm guessing it's a counselor, and the guy's like, you know, it's $30,000 for 30 days. And you know, and Jackson's like, well, what if I don't do the 30 days? He's like, well, sorry, man. Well, you don't get any refund back, you know, so 30 days or not, you're still paying the full amount of money. And it's just like 15 days. And you're like, yeah. I mean, that guy on the other end of the phone, you're like, who is this guy? This is your selling point? Appreciate you taking the time. No, Jax is not taking the time. Jax must do this. He's forced to. So, in my opinion, but how he was just on the phone, like, I have depression and anxiety. Really? How about rage and anger issues? You've got a lot more than that. So I love the fact that Brittany was like, you need to be honest. You need to get help. And maybe he will. And then when him making that video, sobbing, crying, I'm not the man. And you are no man. You are a belligerent child in a man's body. And it just makes me sick. And Brittany, it was really gut-wrenching when Brittany says, for him to be gone for 30 days, it will be good for me. It'll be such a relief. And for her just, you know, to have to say something like that, for this man to be away will be such a relief to me, my kid, and just to have this, all that stress just away from me for 30 days. It would just, I felt so bad for her in that moment. Brittany, look, Brittany, this day was always coming, right? You married Jax. This, everybody warned you and you ignored the warning. Look, love is blind and foolish at times, but here we are. And you have a beautiful son, Cruz. He is gorgeous. So you can't change the past, but I am so sorry to see you go through this. And thank God, Brittany, you have the strength and you have the voice to walk away and speak your mind, speak your truth, speak your side, because you've had to deal with it. And he's made you look like a crazy woman over the years with the shit that he says. And look, we all know that was just Jax full of shit, but that was such a disservice to you. So Brittany, I am so glad that you have found a way through this, and hopefully you will find your way out of this soon. But girl, lawyer up and get it done quickly and get away from this man. And let me just say this, Jax, whenever this happens, and if you are allowed, visitation or, custody of your kid, whatever may come out of the court's judgments down the road, whenever this happens, you need to step up and be a decent father. You keep using the excuse, I'm a dad, I'm a father, I'm a father. Step up and be a decent father. This is a wake-up call that you need. Step up and be a father. You're going to be a shitty husband. You're going to be a shitty boyfriend. That's not you. But if your excuse is, I'm a dad, you need to step up and be a dad, because that scene where Cruz was turning his head, didn't want to be kissed by daddy, and how he just cowered. I think there's something telling in that. So Brittany. And do we need Jax anyway on the show? That's my question. I don't know how Jax is involved, if he's involved with production of the Valley. I don't know, but we don't need to see him on camera. I don't need any more Jax. Brittany, you're doing great. So the Valley kicking it off strong on season 2. Good job. So that's all for us today. Thank you so much for joining us on Polywine. Follow us on Instagram at PolyWineTime. And please follow, like, and subscribe Polywine wherever you get your podcast. Thanks so much and have a great day. Bye.